The 90% Rule. From the book Essentialism. Recently, a colleague and I were working to select 24 people from a pool of almost 100 applicants to our Design Your Life, Essentially class. First, we identified a set of minimum criteria such as can attend every class. Then we settled on a set of ideal attributes like is ready for a life-changing experience. Using these criteria, we scored each candidate on a 1 to 10 scale. The 9s and 10s, we decided, were obviously in. Anyone under a 7 was automatically out. I was then given the unenviable task of evaluating the in-between candidates, the 7s and 8s. As I struggled to determine which of these candidates would be good enough, I had the thought. If something, or in this case someone, is just or almost good enough, that is a 7 or 8, then the answer should be no. It was so liberating. You can think of this as the 90% rule, and it's one you can apply to just about every decision or dilemma. As you evaluate an option, think about the single most important criterion for the decision, and then simply give the option a score between 0 and 100. If you rate it any lower than 90%, then automatically change the rating to 0 and simply reject it. This way you avoid getting caught up in indecision, or worse, getting stuck with the 60s or 70s. Think about how you would feel if you scored a 65 on some test. Why would you deliberately choose to feel that way about an important choice in your life? Mastering this essentialist skill requires us to be vigilant about acknowledging the reality of trade-off. Sometimes you will have to turn down a seemingly very good option and have faith that the perfect option will soon come along. Sometimes it will, and sometimes it won't, but the point is that the very act of applying selective criteria forces you to choose which perfect option to wait for, rather than letting other people, or the universe, choose for you. Like any essentialist skill, it forces you to make decisions by design, rather than default. The benefits of this ultra-selective approach to decision-making in all areas of our lives should be clear. When our selection criteria are too broad, we will find ourselves committing to too many options. What's more, assigning simple numerical values to our options forces us to make decisions consciously, logically, and rationally, rather than impulsively or emotionally. Yes, it takes discipline to apply tough criteria. But failing to do so carries a high cost. Non-essentials apply implicit or unspoken criteria to the decisions they make in both their personal and their professional lives. For example, when deciding what projects to take on at work, a non-essentialist may operate by the implicit criterion, if my manager asks me to do it, then I should do it. Or even more broadly, if someone asks me to do something, I should do it. Or still more broadly, if other people in the company are doing it, I should be doing it. In an era of social media where we are vastly more aware of what other people are doing, this criterion can create a particularly serious burden by amplifying all of the non-essential activities we should be doing. One executive team as the author worked with had at one time identified 3 or more criteria for deciding what projects to take on. But over time they had become more and more indiscriminate, and eventually the company's portfolio of projects seemed to share only the criterion that a customer had asked them to do it. As a result, the morale on the team had plummeted, and not simply because team members were overworked and overwhelmed from having taken on too much. It was also because no project ever seemed to justify itself, and there was no greater sense of purpose. Only by going through the work of identifying extreme criteria were they able to get rid of the 70 and 80% that were draining their time and resources and start focus on the most interesting work that best distinguished them in the marketplace. Furthermore, this system empowered employees to choose the projects on which they could make their highest contribution. So, making our criteria both selective and explicit affords us a systematic tool for discerning what is essential and filtering out the things that are not, using this 90% rule. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe this YouTube channel for more informative videos in the future.